Have you ever been in a conversation and thought, wow, this person is so interesting, and wondered what it is about them that makes you want to keep listening? Maybe they have amazing stories, or they're just so full of energy and ideas that you can't help but be drawn in. But here's the thing. You don't need to be some kind of natural-born storyteller, and you definitely don't need to have a life full of thrilling adventures to be interesting. You don't need to be extraordinary to be captivating. The truth is, the key to being interesting is surprisingly simple, and I promise you it's something that anyone can master. Ready for it? It all comes down to one thing: curiosity. I know what you're thinking. That sounds too easy, but hear me out. When you're genuinely curious about the world around you, it shows. You start asking questions, diving deeper into conversations, and people can sense that you're not just waiting for your turn to speak. You're actively engaged and interested in them. And here's the kicker. When people feel heard and understood, they love talking to you. That's what makes you interesting. This might sound like a small shift, but it's powerful. In this video, I'm going to explain how curiosity, not in the way you might think, can change the way people perceive you. By the end of it, you'll have a solid grasp on why this works, and more importantly, how to put it into practice today. So let's break it down. First off, let's talk about why we often get this idea that we need to be constantly entertaining or impressive in order to be interesting. We live in a world where it feels like everyone is trying to be something they're not. Social media is full of highlight reels. Everyone's showing off their best moments, their funniest stories, their most exciting adventures. And let's be real, it's easy to feel like that's what it takes to be interesting. But here's the problem. When you focus too much on impressing others, it can become exhausting. You're constantly thinking about how to top your last story or how to say the right thing at the right time. And let's face it, that pressure can make you feel drained and, ironically, not very interesting at all. You start focusing on what others might want to hear, instead of just being yourself. Now imagine if you flip that script. Instead of worrying about impressing others, you started focusing on what genuinely sparks your curiosity. Imagine becoming so engaged in the conversation that you naturally want to know more, ask deeper questions, and really understand someone's point of view. That's when you start to shine, and it's way more authentic than trying to be someone you're not. But wait, you might be thinking, does this mean I have to become a question-asking machine, firing off questions nonstop to everyone I meet? Not exactly. It's not about interrogating people. It's about having a mindset shift. When you approach conversations with curiosity, it's like you're telling the other person, I'm interested in you and what you have to say. That's the first step in becoming genuinely interesting. Let me give you a simple example. Think about a time when you had a conversation with someone who really listened to you. Maybe they didn't have a perfect story to share or try to one-up you. But instead of just talking at you, they were engaged. They asked thoughtful questions. They made you feel heard. And because of that, you probably found them much more interesting than the person who was just telling stories the whole time. That's the power of curiosity in action. It creates a natural magnetic connection between you and the other person. In the next part of this video, I'll dive deeper into how curiosity can not only make you more interesting, but also help you form stronger, more meaningful relationships. But first, let's pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how often do you find yourself genuinely curious in your conversations? And if you're not, how do you think that's affecting your interactions? Think about it. When you show up as someone who is truly interested, it's not about impressing anyone. It's about connecting. And that, my friend, is what makes you fascinating. Now that we've established that curiosity is the key to becoming more interesting, let's dive into why it works so well and how you can use it to your advantage in everyday situations. The truth is, curiosity doesn't just make you more interesting in conversations, it also makes you more memorable, more relatable, and yes, even more enjoyable to be around. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to connect with someone who is genuinely curious about your thoughts, your life, your opinions? It feels good, right? It's like they're giving you the space to share who you really are, and that naturally draws you closer to them. When someone shows interest in you, you naturally feel more connected to them. And that's the trick. Being interested in others makes you interesting to them. So, how do we make this work? Well, let's break it down into actionable steps you can start using today. First, think about the last time you were in a conversation where you were just going through the motions. Maybe you were chatting with a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger. Were you really tuned in, or were you just waiting for the conversation to end so you could go back to your own thoughts? If you're honest with yourself, it's probably happened more times than you'd like to admit. It's easy to get distracted or mentally check out when you're not actively engaged. And the thing is, when you're not fully present, it's not just the other person who notices. You do too. You can feel the awkward silences, the surface-level exchanges, the lack of spark. But when you engage with curiosity, the dynamic shifts completely. It becomes a dance, not a monologue. The best part? Curiosity doesn't have to be complicated. It's about asking the right questions. Not just any questions, but open-ended questions that invite the other person to share more of themselves. Think about it. When you ask a question that can't just be answered with a yes or no, you open the door to a deeper conversation. You show that you want to know more, you want to understand, and that's what makes you stand out. So instead of asking, "How was your weekend?" try something like, "What was the best part of your weekend?" Or, "What's one thing you did this weekend that made you feel excited?" See the difference? The second set of questions invites them to think more deeply and share something personal. It also shows that you're interested in more than just surface-level chatter. Now, I know this might sound like something that requires a lot of effort, but here's the kicker. It's not. It's just about making the choice to be present and engaged. It's about making space for the other person to tell their story. But what happens when you're genuinely curious and the other person isn't as forthcoming? That's okay too. You don't have to force every conversation to be deep or incredibly revealing. Even the smallest things you show interest in, like asking someone about their favorite book or what they've been working on lately, can spark a meaningful exchange. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It just has to be real. Now let's talk about a common myth that might be holding you back from embracing curiosity as a tool for becoming more interesting. You might be thinking, "But I don't want to seem nosy or intrusive." I get it. We've all had those moments where we're hesitant to ask questions because we don't want to cross any boundaries. But here's the thing. When you ask questions with genuine interest and respect for the other person's comfort zone, it doesn't feel invasive. Instead, it feels like an invitation for them to share what they're comfortable with, and that's a huge difference. Curiosity doesn't mean you need to know everything about someone's personal life. It's about letting the conversation flow and being receptive to what they're willing to offer. And when you do that, you'll start noticing something incredible. The more curious you are, the more you'll hear, the more stories you'll discover, and the more genuine connections you'll make. But let's not stop there, because curiosity doesn't just help you in one-on-one conversations. It can transform the way you interact with the world at large. When you cultivate curiosity in all areas of your life, you start seeing opportunities to connect and learn everywhere you go. It could be at the grocery store, talking to your neighbor, or even at work. The more curious you are about the world around you, the more interesting everything and everyone becomes. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, try shifting your mindset. Instead of focusing on what you're going to say next or how you can impress the other person, focus on how you can learn more about them. Ask yourself, what can I discover from this person that I didn't know before? What makes them tick? When you start doing this, you'll quickly realize that the conversations flow easier, the connections feel more meaningful, and you, my friend, are way more interesting than you thought. By now, you've learned how being curious can unlock the key to being more interesting and creating more meaningful connections with others. But there's one more layer to this idea that I want to share with you, and it's something that might just blow your mind a little. You don't have to be special to be interesting. I know that sounds counterintuitive, right? We often think that being interesting means we need to have an exotic job, travel the world, or have these crazy, larger-than-life experiences. But here's the truth. You don't need any of that to become someone people want to be around. Instead, all you really need is a genuine curiosity about life, people, and the world around you. That's it. Simple. No extreme qualifications required. Let's take a step back for a second and consider something. Have you ever met someone who didn't have an exciting job or impressive resume, yet they still had this magnetic energy? They just seemed to draw people in. Why? Because they were genuinely interested in everything around them. They asked insightful questions, they were good listeners, and they made you feel like you mattered. And here's the kicker, they weren't pretending to be something they weren't. They didn't need to show off their knowledge or experiences because their curiosity made them stand out. Think of it this way. Ever been to a party where there's that one person who just has to be the center of attention, always talking about themselves or showing off their accomplishments? It's exhausting, right? On the flip side, there's the person who's quietly standing in the corner, listening, asking thoughtful questions, and showing genuine interest in the people around them. You don't even realize it at first, but somehow you find yourself gravitating toward them. Why? Because they make you feel heard, seen, and valued. And guess what? That's the trick to becoming interesting. When you focus on others and show authentic interest, they start to feel interesting themselves. You're not just having a conversation, you're building a connection. And that connection is what makes you memorable. This brings me to something I call the curiosity ripple. Let me explain. Have you ever had a conversation that started off with a simple question, but then it led to a deep, meaningful discussion that you didn't want to end? That's the beauty of curiosity at work. One small question can spark an entire conversation that can grow and evolve in ways you never expected. By asking questions with no hidden agenda, just a true desire to learn, you create an environment where ideas can flourish, where people feel comfortable sharing, and where you feel like you've learned something new about the world. It's like you throw a stone into a pond and the ripples spread out, touching everything in their path. So, how can you apply this in your day-to-day life? It's actually much simpler than you might think. Every day presents an opportunity to ask questions and learn something new. Think about your friends, co-workers, even your family members. Next time you're hanging out with them, instead of falling into your usual routine of small talk, try asking a question that goes beyond the surface level. What's been the most rewarding thing about your week? What's one thing you wish more people understood about you? These aren't complex questions, but they encourage deeper reflection and richer conversation. And the more you practice asking these kinds of questions, the more naturally it will flow and the more interesting you'll become. But the secret ingredient? Patience. Don't rush the process. Being genuinely curious about someone or something takes time. And it's that time spent in deep engagement that will ultimately make you more engaging. You'll start noticing patterns, hearing different perspectives, and gaining insights that most people overlook. And let's not forget about your own growth. As you practice curiosity and learn more about others, you'll begin to notice something incredible. You'll start to become more interesting to yourself too. You'll develop a broader perspective on life, discover new passions, and see the world in a completely different way. The more you learn, the more you'll have to share, and not just with others, but with yourself. So, to wrap things up, you don't need to be extraordinary to be interesting. All you need is a genuine curiosity about the world and people around you. By asking thoughtful questions, listening deeply, and letting the curiosity ripple through every interaction, you'll naturally become the person others want to be around. It's not about impressing people with your accomplishments or experiences. It's about showing them that they matter, that you value what they have to offer, and that you're eager to learn more. Remember, it's not about being interesting in the traditional sense. It's about being interested in others in the world. That's where the magic happens. So next time you find yourself in a conversation, don't worry about having the perfect story or trying to say something impressive. Just lean into the curiosity. Ask the right questions and see where it takes you. Because the truth is, being interesting isn't about being flashy or extraordinary. It's about being present, engaged, and genuinely curious. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you're feeling inspired to go out and start practicing your curiosity. You'd be surprised at how simple it is to change the way you connect with the world. If you like this video, drop a comment and let me know about a time when curiosity led to an interesting conversation in your life. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more tips on becoming the best version of yourself. Until next time, stay curious and stay awesome.